I'm a little embarrassed to say that I hadn't even heard of DMT until 1999, and I want to tell you the story of how I got involved in this. I had just gotten a small grant from the NIH to study the question of whether neural signals actually travel between human brains at a distance, and I had read this paper that appeared in Physics Reviews in 1994 that claimed that EEG signals from one person's brain could be picked up in another person's brain that was isolated from each other by 30 feet. And I found that extraordinary, unbelievable, and if true, it just had to be replicated. So I asked the NIH to give me some funds to explore that, and I asked for funding to do two experiments, an EEG experiment and a functional MRI experiment. So I had just gotten this grant, and some people call that telepathy research. I never, of course, call it that, but some people might. And I had decided that I was probably going to need some extra help, extra influence to pick up a signal if such a thing existed. So I went to one of the early consciousness science conferences at the University of Arizona. And I was sitting in the audience, and I heard a lecture on something I'd never heard about ever called ayahuasca. And it was a lecture by Dr. Luis Eduardo Luna. And also, at that same conference, the next lecture was by Benny Shannon, who I think you interviewed him, yeah. And I was fascinated by what I heard. And the thing that really piqued my interest is that Luis Eduardo Luna said that when the Harvard botanist characterized the South American herbal medicine that was used by indigenous tribes in the Amazon basin, that they had extracted an alkaloid and they ended up calling it telepathine. So that just really piqued my interest. So I just decided I had to know everything about this stuff. And just by accident, or maybe synchronicity, I was in the elevator alone with Luis, and I asked him how I could learn more. And he said, well, you must come to Brazil. And he was having a seminar of psychotherapists and physicians. About 50 people were gathering to study ayahuasca. So I went down to Brazil in June of 2000. And that was when I had my first personal experience of drinking ayahuasca. And I met there Dennis McKenna, and Dr. McKenna and I have become close colleagues. And ever since my first experience with ayahuasca, I have been compelled to study ayahuasca as both a medicine and also a critically important method for exploring consciousness.